God, I don't know how to say this without sounding ungrateful. I'm scared all the time, not of something new happening. I'm scared of losing what I already have. The little stability I've built, the people who are still here, the quiet routines that keep me standing. I wake up already bracing myself, like something is waiting to be taken. Why does it feel like nothing I hold is safe? Why does loving anything feel like inviting loss?
I know. You're tired of carrying that fear alone. You don't say it out loud much, but it hums underneath everything you do. Even in the moments that are supposed to be calm, your body stays alert. You listen for footsteps that aren't there yet. You think this fear means you don't trust me. That's not what it means. It means you have learned, over time, that things disappear. Sometimes slowly. Sometimes without warning. You have lived through moments where what you depended on was suddenly gone. And your mind remembers that better than it remembers safety. So now, when something finally feels steady, your heart tightens instead of resting. You're not wrong for that. But you are exhausted by it. You try to prepare for loss as if preparation could soften the impact. As if staying tense might protect you. But tension doesn't actually guard what you love. It only keeps you from fully being with it. You ask why it feels like nothing is safe in your hands. Part of the answer is hard to hear. Everything you hold is fragile. Not because you're careless. Not because I'm cruel. But because you are alive in a world that changes. I don't say that to scare you. I say it because you already know it. You feel it in your chest every time you get attached. What you're really afraid of isn't losing things. It's losing yourself when they're gone. You remember how disoriented you felt before. How quiet the days became. How you didn't recognize who you were without what you lost. So now you grip tighter. You watch closer. You try to anticipate endings before they arrive. But notice this. Even with all that fear, you are still here. Still breathing. Still loving. Still building small pieces of life again. That doesn't erase what hurt you. But it tells a quieter truth. Loss changed you, but it didn't erase you. You think I'm silent about your fear because I want you to just trust. That's not what I'm asking. Blind trust isn't what heals a nervous heart. What I'm offering you is presence. Not a guarantee that nothing will be taken. But a promise that you will not disappear when something is. I stay with you in the before. In the waiting. In the imagining of worst outcomes. I'm there when your mind runs ahead of the moment you're in. You don't feel me because fear is loud. Fear fills the room and leaves little space for anything else. That doesn't mean I'm absent. It means your system learned to survive by listening for danger. There is nothing wrong with you for that. But I don't want fear to be the only voice shaping your days. Not because fear is evil. But because it was never meant to be your home. You are allowed to enjoy what you have without rehearsing its ending. That doesn't tempt loss. It honors the present. You worry that relaxing means being careless. It doesn't. It means letting yourself be human for a moment. I see how carefully you love now. How you don't give your whole heart at once. How you keep part of yourself ready to retreat. That kept you safe before. But safety built only on withdrawal becomes another kind of cage. I am not asking you to throw your heart open recklessly. I am asking you to notice when fear is making decisions for you. When it's deciding how much joy you're allowed. How deeply you can rest. You think if you expect loss, it will hurt less. But pain doesn't measure itself against expectations. It arrives as it is. What changes pain isn't prediction. It's support. It's knowing you won't face it alone. You don't need to harden yourself to survive the future. You need steadiness beneath you. That steadiness isn't the things you're afraid of losing. It's not the people, the routines, the sense of control. Those are gifts, but they were never meant to carry your weight. You are afraid because you've been placing your security on what can move. And when it shifts, you feel like you're falling again. I want you to feel the ground under you, even when everything else trembles. Not all at once. Not perfectly. Just enough to take one breath without bracing. I know that sounds small. But small is where healing starts. Right now, you're holding your life like glass. Every movement careful. Every laugh followed by a flicker of dread. I'm not asking you to stop caring. I'm asking you to stop punishing yourself for caring. You can love something and still survive its loss. You already have. Even if it doesn't feel like survival yet. And there's more I want to tell you about what remains when things leave.
God, when you say that, part of me wants to believe you, and part of me feels stupid for even hoping, because I remember how it felt last time, how empty everything looked afterward. I don't trust myself to survive that again. I don't trust my strength. I don't trust my heart not to break past repair. If things fall apart, who am I supposed to be then? What if what's left of me isn't enough?
You're being honest now. This is the fear beneath the fear. Not the loss itself, but the version of you that had to walk through it. You don't doubt that pain will hurt. You doubt that you will still be you afterward. You remember feeling hollow. Like your name didn't fit anymore. Like the future had quietly stepped away without explaining itself. So when I speak about surviving, you hear it as pressure. As if I'm asking you to be stronger than you feel. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not asking you to trust your strength. I'm asking you to notice what carried you when you had none. You didn't survive because you were brave. You survived because something in you kept choosing the next breath. Even when you didn't want to. Even when you didn't call it hope. You think survival has to look like confidence. It doesn't. Sometimes it looks like staying quiet. Sometimes it looks like getting through the day without collapsing. You did that. Not because you were unbreakable. But because you were held in ways you didn't recognize at the time. I know you're afraid that if everything falls apart again, you'll be erased. But you weren't erased before. You were altered. That distinction matters more than you think. Loss rearranges you. It strips away assumptions. It leaves you standing in a body that feels unfamiliar. And in that disorientation, you assumed you were gone. But what was actually gone was the version of you that existed before the pain. That version doesn't come back. Not because it should. But because it can't carry what you've learned now. You're afraid of becoming someone you don't recognize again. But you're already someone you don't fully recognize. And you're still here. You ask who you're supposed to be if things fall apart. You don't get to decide that in advance. That's part of why the fear feels unbearable. You want a map for after. A guarantee that there will be meaning. A promise that you won't be alone in the ruins. I can't give you a script for loss. But I can tell you this. You are not defined by what stays. And you are not erased by what leaves. There is a part of you that remains even when everything else changes. You don't feel it because it's quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It just keeps breathing when you forget to. That part of you has been with you every time you thought you were finished. It didn't fix the pain. It didn't explain it. It simply stayed. You think staying isn't enough. But staying is how you survive long enough for anything else to happen. Right now, you're measuring your future by your past wounds. That's understandable. It's also incomplete. You are not walking toward loss as the same person you were before. You are more aware now. More tender. More cautious, yes. But also more capable of noticing what actually supports you. You're afraid that loving what you have now is dangerous. That it makes the fall worse. But withholding love doesn't prevent pain. It only prevents life from fully touching you. I'm not asking you to live without fear. I'm asking you to stop letting fear be the only proof you trust. You trust fear because it's consistent. It always shows up. It always warns you. It never asks you to be still. But fear is not wisdom. It's a signal that something mattered. The problem isn't that you're afraid to lose. The problem is that you've started living as if loss has already happened. You grieve things before they're gone. You detach in advance. You soften your joy so it won't shock you if it disappears. And that half-living feels safer. But it's costing you more than you admit. I don't want to rush you into courage. I want you to notice when you're shrinking to avoid pain. You don't need to become fearless. You need to become present. Presence doesn't deny endings. It just refuses to live in them before they arrive. You asked earlier why loving anything feels like inviting loss. Because love opens you. And openness makes impermanence visible. But love also roots you in this moment. And this moment is real. It's not a threat. Right now, nothing is being taken. Right now, you are safe enough to breathe. I'm not promising that will never change. I'm telling you that this moment deserves to be lived as it is. You don't need to solve tomorrow to be here today. You don't need to know who you'll be later to let yourself exist now. There is still something I want you to understand about what remains when you stop bracing. When you stop bracing, it doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop living as if impact is guaranteed. I know that feels impossible. Your body learned to stay ready because readiness once felt like survival. Letting go of that readiness feels like stepping into open air. You think if you loosen your grip, everything will slip through. But what actually happens is quieter. You begin to notice what's already holding you. Right now, you are supported by things you rarely name. Your breath that keeps arriving without permission. Your ability to notice when something hurts. Your instinct to reach out, even when you expect nothing back. These are not dramatic strengths. They don't announce themselves. That's why you overlook them. You've been waiting for something solid enough to guarantee safety. But guarantees don't exist the way you want them to. Even the strongest structures change over time. What remains isn't certainty. It's adaptability. It's the quiet resilience that doesn't feel like power. You don't trust that kind of resilience because it doesn't feel impressive. It feels fragile. But fragility doesn't mean weakness. It means sensitivity. And sensitivity is how you survive loss without disappearing. You fear that if something is taken, you'll collapse completely. But collapse isn't the same as ending. Sometimes collapse is how you finally stop pretending you're fine. You've been carrying yourself carefully for so long. Holding your life at arm's length. Trying not to lean too hard on anything. That kind of living keeps you upright, but it keeps you alone. I see how often you ask yourself, how long will this last? Even in good moments. Especially in good moments. You don't let yourself stay. You watch the clock. You wait for the shift. I'm not upset with you for that. You learn that joy can turn without warning. So you protect yourself by never settling fully inside it. But joy that is never inhabited becomes distant. Like a room you pass through but never sit in. I'm not asking you to ignore reality. I'm asking you to stop living only in anticipation of loss. There is a difference between awareness and captivity. Fear has slowly become the lens you see everything through. Not because you want it to. But because it once kept you alive. You don't need to shame that fear away. You need to thank it for what it did, and then loosen its grip. You are allowed to let moments be moments. Not lessons. Not warnings. Not rehearsals for grief. Just moments. You worry that if you don't prepare, you'll be blindsided. But no amount of preparation makes loss painless. It only makes the present heavier. You're carrying tomorrow's sorrow into today. And today was never meant to hold that much. I know you want to be ready. But readiness doesn't come from tension. It comes from trust in your ability to respond when the time comes. You've responded before. Not perfectly. Not gracefully. But honestly. And honesty kept you alive. You think you need to be stronger next time. You don't. You need to be supported. Support doesn't always look like rescue. Sometimes it looks like staying present long enough to feel what's actually here. Right now, what's here is not loss. It's fear of loss. And fear feels real because it speaks in images and memories. But it's still not the event itself. You don't have to punish yourself for something that hasn't happened. I know you're tired. Tired of watching. Tired of holding back. Tired of loving with one foot out the door. That tiredness is a signal. Not that you're failing. But that this way of living is costing you more than it's giving. You don't need to suddenly trust everything. You don't need to make peace with impermanence in one moment. You just need to let yourself rest where you are. Even briefly. Rest doesn't mean pretending nothing can hurt you. It means allowing yourself to stop anticipating pain for a moment. You're afraid that if you rest, you'll miss the warning signs. But rest doesn't make you blind. It makes you human again. I am not standing at the edge of your life, waiting to take things away. I am with you in the middle of it. In the ordinary days. In the fragile attachments. When something ends, I will be there too. Not to explain it. Not to justify it. But to remain when everything else shifts. You don't have to imagine that now. You don't have to prepare your heart for it. This moment doesn't require defense. Let yourself feel what's here without scanning for what's next. Let yourself sit inside the life you still have. Even if it scares you to care this much. You are not foolish for wanting things to last. You are human. And being human means loving what cannot be guaranteed. Not because it's safe. But because it's real. For now, that is enough.